Are you decent, man? Are you decent? Yeah. It is tonight, right?
Yeah, it's definitely happening tonight. It looks like he's still streaming though.
Yeah. Can you guys see us? Get out and get maybe some cameras.
You think this has something to do with what happened to Darren?
Let's just get out. So you getting this then?
Yep, yeah, I'm recording.
Right, okay. Lloyd disappeared and
Darren vanished.
Darren has vanished and we can't find either of them. It's fucking Halloween, so that's why we're filming this, because if we go missing, then we want there to be some kind of evidence to show that we bought torches.
Just in case.
Do you wanna turn the lights off and see if the torches are working okay? Good? Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. I've never seen anything like this.
The whole situation's pretty fucked up.
Like, while we wait, we should maybe turn the batteries off for a little bit. Turn the cameras off.
Okay, we just switched back on because we just heard a noise coming from that side of the room. Oh shit! Oh. Yeah.
There we go, okay.
Maybe we should probably just try and leave.
Just leave?
Let's just try and leave.
Just go. The lock's on, right?
No, the lock's off.
Darren, Lloyd, fucking really funny, great, yeah, Halloween pranks, yeah. You guys gonna open the door, yeah? Oh. That's hilarious, guys. Come on. This is not.
Okay. Do you hear that? I can hear them.
I mean,
that's definitely them. What are they trying to tell us?
Thumper is violent, but it isn't violent like most games are. You don't kill things per se, and there's no blood and gore to get squeamish about. Instead, it is a relentless nightmare in the guise of a prog rock album cover. It reaches out from the screen, and then it yanks you left and right with increasing ferociousness. It is a singular mechanical experience, shorn of all excess and frills. It does just one thing, and it does it with a brutal, unwavering efficiency. So you might be thinking that Thumper seems an odd pick for a game to talk about during Halloween, but beyond its timely release during October, it is also undoubtedly a game that shares a lot of its genetic makeup with horror as a genre. Horror's aim is frequently misrepresented. It isn't just supposed to scare you, it's supposed to elicit a reaction from you, usually a negative reaction, but a reaction nonetheless. All horror should be effective at being affecting. And there is no doubt in my mind that if you play Thumper right now, it will elicit a reaction from you. Because beyond its uncomfortably trippy setting, which asks you, why am I a bug speeding along a metal rail inside a kaleidoscope to launch pulses of energy at a giant demon skull over and over again, Thumper attacks you when you play. Whereas most rhythm games reward you for positive feedback when you hit your cue, Thumper just straight out assaults you. Now this is largely down to its soundtrack, which is the brainchild of Brian Gibson, the bassist of noise rock duo Lightning Bolt. But this is a more muscular, percussive affair than the swampy feedback-laden pulse that is Lightning Bolt. Everything is clean and metallic, but uncomfortably so. Thumper aims to disorientate you by battering you senseless with 808 claps, hollow metal beats, and a rising whine that increases as you draw nearer to the end of each stage. Beyond the simple reaction that you'll get to the music, you'll also have a reaction to the visuals. Everything is frenzied and high-paced. It's an uncomfortable experience whipping through these insane metallic shard environments that make no real geological sense to you, and the noise only serves to exacerbate those feelings. When the game kicks off for real at level 3, the beats have reached a very complex level, but they become easier to parse in some ways. Phrases are taught to you, repeated, and then iterated upon. They slowly increase in complexity and are then mixed together. Mark Fleury, who is the programmer behind Thumper and also a bunch of other harmonics titles, knows how to orchestrate all of Gibson's syncopated beats into something more rewarding, something more meaningful. Now that isn't to say that the soundtrack of Thumper isn't fantastic, because you can listen to it on Spotify or buy it right now and it is absolutely brilliant, but it needs an editor to make sense in the form of a game, and Mark Fleury is that editor. He splits up phrases and figures out how to make them most effective. Short stages introduce new sequences, and they're then followed by longer stages, where they're mixed in with previous sequences you might already know. Eventually, like all rhythm games, it asks you to put everything together in one go, but unlike most rhythm games, it asks you to do it under some considerable duress. Things are fast, things are complicated, patterns will be slammed together in ways that feel uncomfortable and strange to you, and this is all while the game is becoming increasingly unbearable. As the background score raises in volume and intensity, Thumper grabs you and slams you around the room as you struggle to hammer out its diabolical patterns. So like all good horror, Thumper provokes you and needles you into a tense and frenzied state where you're afraid to look away, but it also has the emotional release that all horror should have. All the pent-up emotion will disappear during a cathartic climax, be that the dopamine rush of a shrill staccato beat sequence, or the feeling of relief when you finally cross the threshold of a checkpoint after a particularly tortuous part of the game. During its most intense runs, it really is a different story though. Failure is brash and violent and frequent. The death sequence is loud and disconcerting, and if you do get it in quick succession, it becomes very exhausting. You'll grip the controller with a steely determination as you inevitably flounder through songs that are in twisted machine-style rhythm that's just beyond your capabilities at first. It's also terrifyingly hypnotic. It treats you like a puppet, stringing you with wires of light that are threaded through your eyes and ears, and it makes you dance to its demented tunes. You never really know where you're going to go next with Thumper, but you'll start to recognise these sequences as you play them over and over again, but that never makes them easier to bash out when they're thrown at you in such quick succession without any sense of relent or remorse. Mechanically as well, the game is fairly tortuous, with its scoring system being incredibly demanding. The thump mechanic that the game derives its name from is only really taught to you on level 3, it's where you hit a pad, jump and slam down later, but it becomes the cornerstone of how to score big. It's also predictably incredibly exhausting. In some ways it feels a little bit like a Platinum game in that it shows you how to score big and it gives you the tools and instructions to use them, but then it asks you to use your brain to find the most optimum strategy. And the problem with that is the optimum strategy is always the most difficult one, and it'll invariably end up with you jabbing your blistered thumbs at your pad at painful speeds. And if you're going for high scores and S ranks, this difficulty is never more apparent than when you face off against the strange, ambiguous bosses that litter the levels, or when the giant mechanical head from the future turns up at the end, and they all make you pass a brutal no-fails exam over 4 increasingly nightmarish patterns. The genius of these sections lies in the way that they chew up your previous muscle memory and spit it back out at you in a totally corrupted form. The patterns you've learned are still there, but they're slyly broken up and syncopated and pushed just out of shape. The fact that you have to do all these stages in a row with no fail is already pretty sadistic, but to twist up the patterns like that on you, that's just downright perverted, and that's one of the reasons that Thumper is so fantastic. It doesn't shy away from making you uncomfortable when you play, it really pushes you and makes you want to do the best that you can possibly do against its ongoing onslaught of audio-visual nightmares. With its surreal and clinical aesthetic, through its harrowing soundtrack and punishing trials, Thumper takes the rhythm action genre to a new, surreal and horrifying level. It's a taste of fleshy human wits against cold, inscrutable machine patterns. It's a perfect realisation of its own goals. It never steps out of line, and it is never anything other than abrasive and intense. If you're looking for a unique horror experience to play this Halloween, then I can't really do any better than recommend that you play Thumper. You might have played first-person horror games before, you've probably played Silent Hill and Resident Evil, but Thumper's something new. It's a terrifying sensory experience that, for me, is some of the best horror ever made.
Well, that wasn't relevant. What do you think? Look. Look. What's that noise? It's coming from the wall. Okay, come on. Come on, tell me. Tell me. What do you want? Scale is something I find truly harrowing. It's the reason why, as prejudiced as he might have been, Lovecraft's work really resonates with me, and with many others. The monolithic structures, cyclopean mountain ranges, and unfathomable depths of his twisted imagination have inspired countless other works, but a lot of them fall short of doing this type of imagery justice. Inside, as small as it is, has so much scope. Moving through the staggering architecture, you can't help but feel incredibly small. The facility seems to stretch infinitely out in all directions, and fundamental rules of the universe gradually mean less and less. It's oppressive, it's lonely, and there's not a single line of dialogue spoken in the whole game. All of this is conveyed through a perfect storm of environmental design, sound design, and a brilliant eye for lighting. Whether it's being chased by a pack of dogs or cautiously navigating the watery skeleton of the forgotten subterranean chambers, you're always on edge. It's something special when a game can elicit such natural reactions as opposed to trying to drag them out of you. And while the gameplay works very well with the overall tone of the game in moments like those, it can be a little inconsistent. There are a lot of ideas at play, and some work better than others. The moments where you have to escape a pursuer, or when you have to march in time with the drones, are amazingly tense. And then there are the inventive little mind control sections where you're forced to puppeteer these sad homunculi. But, of course, broken down old staples like time-wasting box-pushing puzzles are also mixed in for good measure. I use the term puzzle very loosely here, as there is nothing challenging or engaging about moving an object to a slightly out-of-reach ledge, or staying out of a spotlight while you raise a platform to cross a gap. These are just there to slow you down, and it destroys the pace and the tension in the moment. Sure, the idea of being caught in the searching glow of the security lights can be a bit unpleasant, as it is an insta-kill, but it doesn't make these sections any less tedious. This is never as obvious as when you're forced to do them as a crazy stampeding Cronenberg. You're barreling through reinforced concrete, splintering giant glass enclosures, and crushing dopes into fine jelly. But the game grinds to a halt in order to make you move stuff around to get through openings mere inches out of reach. Considering how grotesque the Cronenberg thing is, and how uncomfortable I felt while piloting it, it's baffling that they would stop this cinematic rampage to have you do more of the same stuff as before. I guess we're to assume that the kid is now in control of this seething biomass, and he's using the brute force to continue his escape. But that makes the actual act of assimilating with this tumorous mound feel pretty redundant. In the end, Inside is less of a game and more of an existential nightmare. It would be easy to say this experience is more style than substance, because it's true, but sometimes aesthetics are just as important. It manages in 2 hours to cultivate an atmosphere so powerful that it puts a majority of modern horror in both film and games to shame. Okay, well, that didn't help either. So, I guess, fuck this, you know, I'm done. I'm gonna try and go. What the fuck? Fuck this, you know, I'm coming in. What the fuck?